Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and this one is some good news. Supreme Court conservatives signal possible support for census citizenship question. Supreme Court conservative justices signaled possible support Tuesday for the Trump administration's bid to ask about citizenship on the 2020 census, during a high-stakes argument where partisan lines were quickly drawn. While the liberal justice peppered the government with questions about the plan, the conservative justices were mostly silent during arguments, in a sign the conservative majority would hold the administration's favor in the closely watched case. At issue is the level of discretion Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, who oversees the U.S. Census Bureau, has to change information contained in the once-a-decade population count. Three federal courts have blocked the Commerce Department from adding the citizenship question, ruling that Ross violated federal law in the way he went about trying to include the question for the first time since 1950. Let's just take a look at 1950 for a second. Liberals began being elected more and more and more in that after that. It is a major fight over executive power with stark implications for the fight over immigration and for national elections. Critics say adding the question would discourage many immigrants from being counted. How the justices' rule could affect how many seats states have in the House of Representatives and their share of federal dollars over the next 10 years. The 85-minute oral argument Tuesday grew testy at times, with several on the bench interrupting counsel repeatedly and others offering lengthy explanations of their legal positions. The four left-leaning justices pressed the Solicitor General for the Justice Department to explain the reasoning behind the citizenship question, noting experts at the Census Bureau have said the citizenship question could lead to an undercount of as many as 6.5 million, especially in urban areas. Justice Sonia Sotomayor said there was no doubt many in the immigrant community would be discouraged from participating. This is about 100% that people will answer less, she said. It is an action by the government that will be a cause of this, not proximate necessarily, but that cause will cause harm. Don't even know what that sentence means, Justice Sotomayor. But several justices on the right questioned whether the citizenship question alone would cause an inaccurate census, saying the survey routinely asks a range of questions on the form beyond the number of people in the household. The principal purpose is to count the population, but we've had demographic questions on the census, said Chief Justice John Roberts. Sex, age, things like that. A coalition of states led by New York, along with several others and civil liberties groups, brought the legal challenge before the High Court, and federal judges around the country have ruled against the administration. The federal government and 17 other states say it is needed to help enforce the Voting Rights Act. It is. One of the foundational requirements of the federal democracy, we're not a democracy, the census holds enormous political, social, and economic weight. The makeup of Congress and other elected offices, as well as the distribution of taxpayer funds, are directly determined by the population count, and the numbers offer a broad canvas into the nation's racial, regional, and cultural identity. The Constitution's Article 1, Section 2 requires a count of the population every 10 years in such manner as they, Congress, shall by law direct. Federal law requires people to fill out the census accurately and completely. In arguments, Solicitor General Noel Francisco said courts should not be guessing Ross's direction, but several liberal justices cited documents showing Ross pressed the Justice Department to support the citizenship question, despite initial reluctance by administration officials. It did really seem like the Secretary was shopping for a need, said Justice Elena Kagan. So you can't read this record without sensing that this need is a contrived one. This is a solution in search of a problem. Ironically, that's what the Mueller report was, Justice Kagan. That's not what this is. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, was she there? Please someone tell me if she was physically there or not. Pressed Francisco on why the citizenship question was dropped after the 1950 census. There was nothing in 1960 to the effect that the Census Bureau found that putting it on the short form would depress the count of non-citizens, she asked. Nothing like that. Several conservative justices questioned the accuracy of administrative records that could be used to ensure a more accurate count instead of a direct citizenship question. What jumps out is the fact that citizens and non-citizens offer a lot of respects other than citizenship. or differ in a lot of respects other than citizenship, said Justice Samuel Alito. They differ in socioeconomic status, they differ in education, they differ in language ability. So I don't think you have to be much of a statistician to wonder about the legitimacy of concluding that there is going to be a 5.1% lower response rate because of this one factor. I thought it was 6. Now it's 5.1. Roberts and Justice Brett Kavanaugh suggested if lawmakers were so concerned, they could change the law. Oh, imagine that. If Congress is so concerned, do their damn job. Why doesn't Congress prohibit the asking of a citizenship question in the same way that Congress has explicitly provided that no one can be compelled to provide religious information, said Kavanaugh. The statute that Congress has passed gives huge discretion to the Commerce Secretary how to fill out the form and what to put on the form. And Justice Neil Gorsuch said many countries in the United Nations include citizenship questions in their counts. In an unusual arrangement, the Democratic-led House of Representatives was given time to argue against adding the citizenship question. Why were they there in the first place? This is about the judicial branch, not legislative. A lawyer for the House thanked the justices for their privilege on behalf of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat of California. Tell her she's welcome, said Roberts, smiling. The case is Department of Commerce v. New York, 18966. A ruling is due by late June, and the deadline is tight to ensure the census forms, whether amended or not, are printed and distributed in time. This is very simple. Give me a second to find my copy. Sorry about that. But if we look at the United States Constitution, and I'm looking specifically at the Bill of Rights. Oh, look at this. Amendment 26. For those of you who have one of these, it is on page 34 at the top. Amendment 26. The 26th Amendment was ratified on July 1, 1971. I like to point out that this was the year my parents were to turn 21. And then about 5 months before their birthday, they were told you only have to be 18 to vote, and they both said they were not happy about that. Section 1. The right of citizens of the United States who are 18 years of age or older to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of age. Section 2. The Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Leave that there for a minute so you can maybe grab a screenshot or pause. But that is the 26th Amendment to the Constitution. It very clearly says citizens of the U.S. We have had for more than 2 years a very heated debate about voter fraud and the effect it has on our election process. In an environment where voter fraud is a hot button issue, why would the Democrats not want to prove that they're right? There is no fraud. See, here's how many citizens we have, here's how many voters we have, they're the same, or voters are lower. Notice? They don't want this question because they know in states like California, where they have a Motor Voter Act, and all illegal aliens are treated as kings and queens, given everything they want, including a driver's license that automatically registers them to vote. And because, well, we can't disenfranchise the poor migrants, we have to do everything in their language too. So voting is provided in Spanish. You cannot tell me, seriously, that illegal aliens who come into our country and are not prosecuted, who are told, we are going to protect you, who are given a driver's license that says registered voter, are not then going to go to the polls on election day and vote. No one there is asking for ID. No one there is asking for anything other than your name. We have proof that illegal aliens voted in Texas. They're being prosecuted or already have been. There was a man who already admitted to voting in Florida and then again in New York. Voter fraud is real. If you go to www.cosaction.com, that is C as in convention, O as in of, S as in states, cosaction.com. This is a grassroots organization calling for an Article 5 Convention of States. When Congress won't do their job, we can call an Article 5 convention with 34 states passing said resolution. We're still under 20, so we still need a lot. But when that happens, delegates are called, and then they propose and debate amendments. If those amendments pass the convention, they're sent to all 50 states, and three-quarters of the states, or 38 at present, must then ratify them in order for them to take effect. The stated goals of this group are to 1. Impose term limits on Congress. No more 4 decades with under 5 bills passed. Fiscal responsibility. You have to live within your means. And protection of the Constitution. What do those words actually say? Read them verbatim. That's what they mean. If we had a law that said you can't twist the Constitution, sadly we need one, then we would have someone who could go to the Supreme Court in this case and say, well, Justice Sotomayor, the 26th Amendment specifically states that only citizens may vote. We are currently seeing many reports of voter fraud. Changing the census to ask if you are a citizen. That's it. Would then tell us how many citizens are in each state and how many voters we have in each state is well known as well. If we see more votes cast than we have citizens, we know fraud existed. But of course, liberals will never let that statement be made. As soon as you mention elections, you're trying to disenfranchise minority voters. You're trying to suppress the black vote. You're an evil bigot who doesn't want minorities to vote. You hate brown people. It's insane. It is. I don't call myself a conservative or liberal or Republican or Democrat. I'm a libertarian. I want the government as small as possible, providing only the very basics of what a government should supply. I want the government to completely remove itself from education, health care, all of that. We survived for over a century with no IRS, no Department of Education, no meddling in health care, nothing. But then the government started to see that the more they could encroach into other areas, the more money they could pull in for themselves. And now we see the effects of that after 240 odd years, where now the government says it's illegal to find out if people are violating the law, and they actually defend it. But I've talked about this long enough. Let me know what you think. Remember to keep it civil. We do not learn from arguments. We learn from debate. And as always, remember to like, comment, and share this video, as well as to subscribe and activate notifications so you're the first to know of any new content as it is posted. I do normally only post on the 4s and 10s, but there are other times when new information will come out that I will post almost instantly. So you will want to be a subscriber with notifications for those occasions. Other than that, everyone have a wonderful day.